In a bustling city, there was a young man named Aram. He was ambitious, hardworking, and had big dreams. Whenever life threw challenges his way, he would become frustrated and lose hope. Why is life so unfair to me? Why do I always have the biggest problems? I work hard, but nothing seems to work out. Every time Aram faced a challenge, he felt overwhelmed. If he failed in business, he would blame the market. If he struggled in school, he blamed the system. Whenever something went wrong, he always saw the problem as too big for him to handle. One day, Aram invested all his savings into starting a small business. He put his heart and soul into it, believing that this was his chance to change his life. But just when things were starting to improve, disaster struck. His business partner betrayed him, taking away a major deal, leaving Aram with nothing but debt. Aram was devastated. He sat alone in his small rented apartment, staring at the empty walls, thinking, why do I always face such huge problems? Maybe I'm just unlucky. Maybe I should just give up. His frustration turned into hopelessness. Feeling lost, he decided to visit his grandfather, a wise old man who had seen both successes and failures in his life. When Aram arrived at his grandfather's house, he poured out his heart, complaining about how life was unfair and how big his problems had become. His grandfather listened quietly, then smiled and said, "Older adult, come with me to the kitchen." Aram, confused, followed him. His grandfather took a glass of water and dropped a spoonful of salt into it. He stirred it and handed the glass to Aram, saying, "Older adult, drink this." Aram took a sip and immediately made a face. "This is too salty. I can't drink this," he said. The old man nodded and walked Aram outside, where there was a vast lake. The old man took another spoonful of salt, the same amount, and dropped it into the lake. Then he said, "Now, drink from the lake." Aram hesitated but bent down, cupped his hands, and drank from the lake. The water tasted fresh and pure. His grandfather smiled and asked, "Older adult, did you taste the salt?" Aram shook his head. "No, not at all." The grandfather placed his hand on Aram's shoulder and said, "Older adult, problems in life are like salt. The amount of salt never changes. What changes is how much it affects you, and that depends on how big you are. If you stay like this small glass, even a little problem will make your life bitter. But if you grow like this lake, the same problem won't affect you at all." The realization. Aram stood in silence, his mind processing the deep lesson. He realized that his problems weren't as big as he thought. He was simply too small in his thinking to handle them. That night, Aram reflected on his failures and struggles. He understood that instead of running away from challenges, he needed to grow bigger than his problems. Instead of focusing on how unfair life was, he needed to expand his thinking and look for solutions. The next morning, he woke up with a new mindset. Glowing Star, instead of complaining about his lost business, he analyzed what went wrong and started over with more knowledge. Glowing Star, instead of blaming others for betrayal, he chose to surround himself with better people in the future. Glowing Star, instead of giving up, he focused on growing stronger so that no challenge would seem too big. Years passed, and Aram rebuilt his business, this time stronger and wiser. The same problems that once brought him down no longer had power over him. He had grown bigger than his challenges. Moral of the story: problems don't define you. Your ability to handle them does. Expand your mindset, and problems will lose their power. Don't focus on how big the problem is. Focus on how strong you can become.
We need your support. Please like and subscribe.